Well, North Korean leader Kim Jong Un is now in Russia, arriving in a heavily armed train earlier today. Kim is set to meet with Russian President Vladimir Putin at an undisclosed time and place in eastern Russia. So what could this mean for the region, Russia's war in Ukraine and the U.S.? NewsNation's Kelly Meyer is live in Washington. And Kelly, the Biden administration is warning the two nations not to trade weapons.
That's right, Kelly. Washington is warning against the two countries trading weapons and ultimately against North Korea helping Russia in its war against Ukraine. But the White House was not exactly caught off guard by this. Officials were expecting the two to be meeting face to face. NewsNation confirming that last week. The White House has said Russian President Vladimir Putin and North Korean leader Kim Jong Un had also sent each other letters promising bilateral cooperation. And the U.S. watching closely now what comes of this meeting. You can see here video of Kim Jong Un arriving by that green private bulletproof train you mentioned at a rail station in Russia's Far East, just across the border from North Korea. Russia rolling out the red carpet and band greeting the North Korean leader when he arrived after the long journey from Pyongyang. Kim Jong Un expected to have a private rendezvous with Putin for what the Kremlin described as comprehensive discussions between the two. North Korea could supply arms to Russia in exchange for military technology and economic aid. U.S. officials say arms talks between Russia and North Korea are actively advancing and leaving a warning to Kim Jong Un. His regime would, quote, pay a price if it strikes an arms deal with Putin's government. Kelly.
All right. So, Kelly, Russian President Vladimir Putin also weighing into American politics and the nearly 100 charges against former President Trump. What did he have to say about that?
Yeah, Russia's leader, who Trump has said he has a very good relationship with, said the case against Trump exposes U.S. weaknesses and amount to what he calls political persecution, similar to what Trump himself has labeled the charges against him. Kelly.
All right, really interesting. Kelly Meyer, thank you for the update. And let's continue the conversation with Julia Manchester, national politics reporter with our partners at The Hill. Julia, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, Kelly. Good to see you.
Great to see you, too. So what's been the reaction from the U.S. and allies on this one?
Well, like Kelly Meyer said in her hit, this isn't a surprise to the U.S. and their allies. This was expected. However, they're not happy about this because it comes at a point in the Ukraine war where we are seeing, Ukraine continuing to, in the Russian side as well, struggle against each other. And you're seeing both sides really trying to round up as much funds and military material as possible. And this is really a trip about that. You have Vladimir Putin essentially going to ask Kim Jong Un for more aid in this regard. And then on top of that, we obviously know that the U.S. doesn't want to continue to see North Korea continue to build its own missile program and its own military program. And we are seeing that Kim Jong Un will likely ask Putin for that as well. So this is going to be a potential deal in the making. And I would say that much of the West and U.S. allies not happy about this.
Yeah, I would say so as well. So this meeting, as you mentioned, believed to be focused on working out an arms deal. So, Julia, how do you think the U.S. and allies should and will react if North Korea ends up sending weapons to Russia?
I think you will likely see U.S., Ukrainian allies, kind of put on a show of unity against this. This is very much two sides of the world against each other, the U.S., Ukraine, Western European world. And of course, you have Russia and North Korea. So I think you're probably going to see a show of unity. But I think from the U.S. perspective, there's a lot of questions as to what future aid to Ukraine looks like. We know that there are growing concerns in the United States, particularly among some in the Republican Party, that, there's a question as to how long we're going to give this aid to Ukraine and how much of that are we going to give. We've seen these large aid packages given, but I think there's concerns about when does that money run out or when do we start putting that money elsewhere. So the U.S. side, President Biden, really going to think about that going forward.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.